Kevin Costner, one of Hollywood's most renowned leading men and acclaimed filmmakers, has captivated viewers for decades. The veteran actor is noted for portraying characters with strong personal morals as a portrayal of the ideal American male that people connected with the late 20th century. Still, what are his standout performances during his career? Stay tuned for a recap of his top performances. First, we have The Big Chill. We'll start with the most contentious inclusion on this list because Costner only appears in The Big Chill for a few seconds as a corpse in a coffin, and all flashback scenes with him were removed from the final cut. Even without his physical presence, Costner plays the most crucial part in the famous 1983 film about a group of college pals who reconvene in a South Carolina vacation house to memorialize a friend who died by suicide. Base your mortality and lay down in a coffin for a second, let alone how long it takes to shoot a scene, is a challenging and terrible undertaking, but this film would not exist without him or the sequences he filmed. The ensemble cast knows who he is and spent time with him into the series he filmed, which aided in the formation of a bond between this close-knit group of friends, his death in the core mechanics that draw all these 30-somethings together to explore their lives and the existential malice of approaching middle age. None of this happens without the metaphorical ghost of Costner's character Alex towering over the entire picture. Moving on, we have Dances with Wolves. Dances with Wolves is the most divisive picture on this list, and both supporters and detractors of the movie have valid points to make in support of their viewpoints. In 1991, the film famously won the Academy Award for Best Picture, defeating Goodfellas. Others defended the film by arguing that it was the indigenous people who were the ones who saved him. However, some people believe that it is a typical example of Hollywood's white savior theme, which has been around since the beginning of the industry. Costner's attempt came from a good place, and his performance was honest. This makes it worthwhile to watch regardless of which side of the debate you find yourself on. The story follows Union soldier Lieutenant Dunbar as he flees from the atrocities of the Civil War, and eventually finds himself as he lives with members of the Sioux tribe of Native Americans. Following that, A Perfect World. A plot of A Perfect World, which is set in Texas in the early 1960s, follows Butch Costner as he attempts to break out of prison and takes a young kid who was reared in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses as a hostage to aid him in his escape. Butch becomes a sort of father figure for the kid, which is something that Butch never really got the chance to have when he was younger. Along the way, they became friends as Butch provides the kids with certain indulgences that he's not allowed to have or participate in due to his family's strict faith, and Butch becomes a friend to him as well. It's a shame that the average moviegoer has somewhat forgotten about this film because it's one of the most underrated movies directed by Clint Eastwood. Kevin Costner plays a character in that is a both heartwarming and tragic, and it's definitely worth watching again. It's a shame that the average moviegoer has somewhat forgotten about this film. Next, in our list, we have The Untouchables. In the crime drama set in Prohibition-era Chicago and directed by Brian De Palma in 1987, the protagonist Elliot Ness recruits a group of federal investigators to bring down the notorious mobster Al Capone. Although The Untouchables may be more of a Tinseltown dream than a historically accurate portrayal of early 20th century America, this love letter to the legendary gangster flicks of old Hollywood is something to appreciate on its terms. Even though Kevin Costner's portrayal of Elliot Ness occasionally verges on the cheesy, it is the perfect contrast to Robert De Niro's portrayal of Al Capone. It provides a beautiful counterpoint to Sean Connery's Oscar-winning performance as the jaded veteran police detective Jimmy Malone. Moving on, JFK. Kevin Costner and Oliver Stone are at the pinnacle of their creative talents in Oliver Stone's taut and suspenseful conspiracy thriller. Costner takes on the part of Jim Garrison, a former district attorney in New Orleans, who is tasked with determining who was responsible for the assassination of John F. Kennedy. This performance by Costner could be considered his best to date. This is the part that most people picture Costner playing. A person with strong moral convictions is not afraid to challenge the federal government's authority to ask the questions that he believes should be asked. JFK is another picture by Oliver Stone that, despite its historical inaccuracies, successfully conveys the unrest that prevailed at the particular time in history with the kind of enthusiasm and intensity that can be found in no other film. Following that, we have Bull Durham. Costner holds the title of king in the realm of films about baseball. The American Film Institute selected Bull Durham for inclusion of its list of 100 Years, 100 Laughs because it's not only considered to be one of the funniest movies ever made, but it's also one of the best sports movies ever made. Crash Davis is a career minor leaguer who Kevin Costner plays. He's sent to help the talented but raw rookie Ebby Calvin LaRouche, played by Tim Robbins, controls his wild pitching and groom him into a bona fide major league ace, while competing with him for the affection of Annie. This baseball groupie chooses one player each year to be her lover. It is generally agreed upon that Kevin Costner gives one of his best performances in this movie, and that it provides one of the most authentic depictions of life in a minor league. Even the legendary Mickey Mantle, a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame, had some surprising things to say about how this movie portrayed the life of minor league baseball players. Next up, Waterworld. We finally arrived at the picture that was Kevin Costner's undoing, the most expensive film ever made within its time. Fish tar was the nickname given to the failure. When it comes to Waterworld, though, two seemingly opposing viewpoints can be correct. This historic box office disaster is not nearly as horrible as its reputation suggests, yet it's still not that good. Costner reconnected with filmmaker Kevin Reynolds, who had worked on Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. They devised a strategy to work in a genre and with a critical character that was even further outside of the actor's comfort zone. Who else but you could have made the Mariner into such a compelling anti-hero? Oh, maybe this post-apocalyptic survivor has a Mel Gibson or Mad Max vibe. However, Costner's sincerity struggles to offer a foundation for a plot as absurd and exaggerated as this. The most positive thing about Waterworld is that it's not intrinsically bad. The worst thing that can be said about Kevin Costner is that he's about to face an even worse bomb in the form of The Postman. Following that, we have Revenge. In Tony Scott's sizzling, steamy, sensual thriller, Costner went against type. He had already revealed his seductive side in No Way Out with Sean Young and Bull Durham. Still, the sexually heated dalliances with Madeline Stowe torched the screen, pushing Costner to symbol status in Revenge. He portrays a former US Navy pilot who travels to Mexico to see an old buddy, Anthony Quinn, and falls in love with his young wife. Costner's alone scene gets extra points, shot in a moving vehicle. Last on our list, we have Tin Cup. Following their partnership's critical and commercial success on the film Bull Durham, director Ron Shelton appeared destined to collaborate with Costner again. However, when the filmmaker approached Costner about the Tin Cup, he was first uninterested. Quote, "I'd just done Waterworld and had got through a divorce and my heart was very much on the ground," the actor recalled. "However, I thought working with Ron again would be the best treatment since he hands you something you can't fail with," she explained. "I thought working with Ron again would be the most effective therapy. Although Roy's not as memorable as Crash Davis, the Tin Cup is not as well known as Bull Durham." Kevin Costner was allowed to expand his ordinary man muscles in the film as a stubborn has-been who was once a promising golfer. He makes Roy charming while also adding sadness to the character, and Costner has casual chemistry with Rene Russo, who is superb as his hesitant love interest. Although playing Roy was the obvious decision, Costner needed a role that would allow him to knock it out of the park, which he does in this film. Well, that marks the end of our video for today. We hope you liked it and enjoyed it. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching.